We could all use some encouragement. And I've got some good news for you. Welcome to 5 Minutes with Mark. Well, greetings, friends, and welcome back to 5 Minutes with Mark. We're picking up in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 10, and we're at verse 10. So remember, Jesus is talking about divorce. He's talking about marriage. He's talking about this union. And he leaves us with what God has joined together. Let not man separate. There's a spiritual thing that's going on in this union. Well, pick up at verse 10. In the house, his disciples also asked him again about the same matter. The matter of, can a man divorce his wife? So he said to them, whoever divorces his wife and marries another commits adultery against her. And if a woman divorces her husband and marries another, she commits adultery. Stop right there. That's an uncomfortable statement in the culture that we live in, isn't it? We don't want to hear that. We don't want to believe that. But that's what Jesus says. And here's why. There's a spiritual element in our physical union. When we join together with our husband or our wife, there is something deeply spiritual that has happened there. The two become one flesh. And it's a God thing. It's a supernatural, spiritual happening. And yes, we can go our separate ways. Yes, we can go through the court system and get our marriage divorced, finalized, or annulled, or we can just choose to have an open marriage where we sleep with everybody, or we can do a variety of things. We can do a lot of things. What we can't do is undo what God has done in us. I'll say that again. We can do a lot of things, but what we can't do is undo what God has done in us. Therefore, even if you have a legal divorce, according to Jesus, if you go and you start sleeping with someone else, you're committing adultery against your spouse, your former spouse, your original spouse. Why? Because you're still joined together spiritually, because that's what happens when we lay together. And so you have taken what God has done, and now you are using it with someone else. In our culture today, in the society we live in, even in the church, we feel, pretty comfortable with that. It's just humanity is the way we are. But in the spiritual, there's a much deeper thing that happens. And so Jesus says, if you divorce your wife and you marry another, you've committed adultery against your former wife. Likewise, if a woman divorces her husband and marries another, she commits adultery as well. It goes both ways. It's not just a man thing. It's a people thing. Because we've taken what belongs to God. We've taken what God has done, and we're now using it in an improper way. Paul puts it this way, even talking to the church, because remember, marriage on earth, our marriage relationship is the closest thing we have to our relationship with God. And Paul says about the church, look, when you commit adultery, you cause the body of Christ to commit adultery, because we are one. The same Spirit is all of us. And so if you've taken the Spirit of God and you've used it improperly, you have now caused all of us to enter into that. You can't do it alone. And it's the same thing. You've taken the spiritual union that was a blessing from God with an intent of a union till death do you part, for the idea of creating family and having stable family units to raise children. By the way, these are all really good things. And we know that they're good things because we see the detrimental effects of their demise in our culture. Husband and wife, loving, merciful, gracious, working together in that bond of love to create children, raise them up in the knowledge of God, to be good people who also find mates and create more people, and then you get grandkids, and that's fun. That's the plan. And the family has been under attack from the very beginning. And our sexuality has been perverted from the very beginning. And it's become all about what I want, not understanding that when I step outside of that spiritual joining, I'm dragging my wife into it with her knowledge or not, usually without, right? When I do that, even if it's a mental thing, I am hurting that bond. And if we tear it apart, we hurt ourselves. How much wounding have we as a culture inflicted upon ourselves because we did not listen to this one thing that Jesus was so desperately trying to tell us? What God has joined together, let not man separate. There's always an answer. So, I know that was a deep one. But hey, it's what Jesus said. See you tomorrow. I hope you're enjoying this Bible study, this quick devotion. If you'd like more content, you'd like to know more about me and see more of the things that I'm doing, check out my website, theeclecticmonk.com. There you'll find out about my video vlog, my podcast, and a whole lot of other stuff. Hope you'll join me there. Thanks.